What I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Business of Creativity. I am Camila Cole, your host for today and the founder of Just a Squiggle. I am super excited to be here with you. It's going to be a hell of 30 minutes. We have some amazing guests coming in today to talk about how business creativity impacts businesses, how it impacts specifically marketing. And we have amazing guests today. We have Canvas+Co company with Charlene and Carly. I'll introduce them to you in a minute, but I am excited to have you all here. So, first thing is first, I want to introduce you to these amazing female founders, ex-Googlers, creative thinkers, creative experts, video experts that are going to be joining us today to tell us a little bit more about how business creativity impacts the video component of marketing and what are the top 3 tips that you can implement in your teams to boost creativity. So, ladies, welcome. We have Carly, Potock, and Charlene Tassinari. It's a pleasure to see you here. How's everyone doing?
Hello.
We're good. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Well, for those who don't know, Canvas+Co is an amazing company that helps brands succeed in a video-first world. And the reason why they're here today is because now more than ever, creativity is a superpower. It's a business advantage, and specifically when we hone it for marketing, specifically in a world that is now video first, it's going to be critical for your business. So let's get to it. How do you feel about that? Good?
Let's do it.
Awesome. Okay. So you might be thinking, okay, why business creativity and why are we talking about this today? And what is the business of creativity? Well, reality is when we talk about creativity, it's such an intangible concept. It's difficult to grasp what it is and what it does for us. So when I came up with the idea of creating something that makes it a little bit more reachable to you, I decided to call it the business of creativity. Why the business of creativity? Because the creativity component is the magic sauce behind a lot of things that we do in the business. And the reason behind that is because, well, what we see today in today's business world is that 83% of leaders and leaders in organizations agree that the long-term success depends on the ability to foster creative ideas that can transform a business. But here's the thing. Coming up with fresh new ideas, it's really hard, especially because we don't know what to do sometimes. It's a blank canvas. So when we think about the opportunity that we have in front of us, we might be in a roadblock state. The reality is that marketers are facing 3 biggest pain points. It's hard to stand out in a crowded market. 36% of the marketers believe that the increasing competition is making it harder to get their message out. Keeping up with evolving trends. 27% of the marketers believe that pivoting is the biggest challenge they have. They have to be changing their strategy all the time. And then finally, connecting with the audience, but in a true emotional way. 56% of marketers believe that videos are the way to go. People are watching much more video now. And here is a creative opportunity for us. So, with that in mind, creativity becomes that secret superpower, that factor, that X factor is going to help you because it does 3 things for you. It's going to help you think out of the box. It's going to help you problem solve so we can keep up with the evolving trends. And it's going to bring empathy to your marketing. So we're super excited to have Canvas+Co talking to us about those 3 components today. They're going to walk us through some examples. They're going to tell us what do we do with it. And I'll leave it now to these fabulous ladies to tell you more about what they do, what's their company, and have an amazing time with us.
Thank you so much, Cami. So as Cami mentioned, I'm Charlene, and you can see Carly next to me. We spent a combined 20 years working at Google. So I was there for 13 and Carly was there for 7. And for the last 5, we worked together. And our job was to help make YouTube a more accessible platform for growing brands. And at the time, access to video creative was actually one of the biggest barriers. And so our team actually helped build creative products like Video Builder, which now lives in Google Ads, and the YouTube Creative Directory, which is a global net companies, in order to really unlock that access to creative for Google's customers.
And then we left in 2020, which is a story in itself, added to the craziness of the year that was 2020. And now, as Canvas+Co, we work alongside brands as an extension of their team. So, our objective is to simultaneously accelerate their video strategies and also transfer our knowledge to their teams so that they get better and better at video marketing and eventually can do this on their own. And so, the clients that we work with, they range from large, traditional TV first types of brands that are trying to be more digitally native all the way to those digitally native brands that really understand a lot about the platforms we're working on, TikTok and YouTube and Instagram, for example. But they really want to make sure that they're optimizing everything that they're doing. They have creative testing strategies. They're optimizing their operations. And so a lot of what we do, and really our specialty, is that we build insights backed creative strategies and testing strategies that help our clients understand what components of their creative, whether it's the talent that they're using or the messages they're using, or how they're delivering the product through a video, what elements of those are performing best by platform and by audience so that they're really getting the most out of their creative and media investments. And so that's what we do. Creativity plays a huge role in it. So we're excited to be here, and thanks for having us, Cami.
Oh, of course. Okay, so that brings me to my first question of the day. And it's, well, advertising is a field that naturally is begging for creativity. So, what is the current state of creativity in the industry, and what is your take on it?
Yeah, great question. There are a lot of things that are happening in the industry, but there's two things that really stand out to Shar and I as the most important creative factors. So one of those is the evolving relationship between media and creative. So if you're a marketer, you really have two major tools in your toolkit that can help you run a campaign. So one of those is the creative itself. So that's like the actual video ad or the actual image ad you're running. And then the other one is your distribution tactics, so the media and the targeting that you're using. And today, brands actually have a lot less control over the latter of those, over the distribution tactics. And that's because, one, from an organic perspective, reach and engagement are really declining across most social platforms. And then, secondly, from a paid perspective, targeting has really moved towards full automation. So, any of the platforms that you're working on, for example, if you're in Facebook Ads Manager and you're running a campaign, typically the recommendation is set the targeting to broad, let the system do its thing and figure out who is the right person to show that ad to, who's most likely to convert or take the action that you want. And it works really well because the technology behind these algorithms has become so advanced. But as a result, it means that you really only have direct control over what the creative aspect of your campaign. And so that's an area that successful brands are investing really heavily in because they know that creative significantly impacts their bottom line. And we know this through multiple studies and through our own experience. Was a study by Analytics Partners that you can see here that found that the creative component of your campaigns makes up about 2/3 of the return on investment, whereas the media component only impacts about 1/3 of the return on investment. So it makes sense to really invest heavily in your creative, and that those numbers are the creative impact is higher when you're thinking about video versus other types of media. And so, because this shift is happening all around us, and brands are really recognizing that creative is the ultimate business advantage when it comes to making great campaigns, we're seeing that a lot of brands are actually creating roles and hiring for more roles that focus on creative effectiveness and making sure that creative is doing the hard work and the best that it can. And then we're also seeing a lot of really innovative production companies popping up and a lot of innovation around content creation because the name of the game right now is really to have high volumes of content and have that content be very timely and to have variations of it so that you can test and learn. Whereas in the past, there was more of a focus on these beautiful high production spots, but those take a lot of time to produce. And so it doesn't necessarily align to what we need to see on the platforms and to be successful right now. So there's a lot of really cool production companies that are popping up that are helping to produce digital content quickly and more affordably. So that relationship between media and creative is one of the biggest things that's happening. And I'll hand it to Shar to talk about the other one that we think about a lot.
Yes, thanks, Carly. So we couldn't talk about the state of creativity today without obviously mentioning AI. It's one of the hottest topics. And I think our point of view on where the space is headed and just where it is right now as well, it just saves time. And I think that's a really, really, really good thing for marketers. Because if you think about our day-to-day process, it's so much easier to pull data from multiple sources together into one kind of single source of truth so that you can actually spend your time uncovering those customer insights that you probably would have missed if you had to spend all your time pulling that data together manually. And so I personally really love that AI can give marketers some time back and allows them to become more customer focused. I think the caveat to that is the thing that AI can't do as well as you can is truly understand your business and your product or service and your customer. They're just never going to be in the shoes of why your brand exists, right? So you may have seen recently, for example, that Google is building a tool that is fundamentally going to use AI to build ads. And so what you'll need to do is input different images, different videos, different pieces of text, and the AI will spit out ads based on your campaign goal. So if you're trying to drive return on ad spend, they're going to create ads and serve those to a target audience that they think will achieve those goals. And while that might simplify some of the creative production, you still need to really, as I mentioned, understand your brand, your customer motivations, and have a strategy behind those inputs. What messages are you using? What visuals? What talent? All of those are important creative inputs that still need a strategy behind them. And so we like to think about it in this way. Imagine kind of almost any product that you use today. A machine likely makes that, and it likely makes it much more efficient and affordably than if someone were making that by hand. But you still need somebody, an inventor, to come up with that idea, with that product. And we think about AI in a kind of a similar nature, right? It's going to speed up some things, but you still need human context, human knowledge in order to really make it work for you. So lots of changing, obviously, in this space, and we'll keep a close eye on it. But I still think you need a good human brain to help make your brand really connect with a consumer and understand kind of what your product and service is all about.
Yes, technology is here, AI is here. I mean, it's the talk of the day. But human brain and human creativity, it will not be. It's something that we cannot just avoid, and it's actually a superpower. You mentioned something around. So how do we make our creative better? How do we make sure that we're ideating something different for that? So everyone that knows, I talk a lot about provocations, and it's about how do you get your brain to think differently, provoking your brain on demand. So what provocation do you use when helping marketers develop these fresh creative ideas for advertising? I think that's a key point because it's not easy to do this. So how do you recommend we do that?
Yeah, we really love this idea that creativity thrives in constraints. And so the best way to think about that is, for example, if I ask you to tell me a joke, in a lot of cases you'll freeze up because that is a big, broad ask. But if I put some constraints around it and I ask you to tell me a knock knock joke, it can make it a little bit easier to come up with an answer and really hone in on what you want to say. And so we think a lot in constraints when we're thinking about provocations. So the first set of constraints that we always give to our clients is a set of guardrails to think about for their creative. And this is because our clients are working across so many different platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest, connected TV. It goes on, and all of those platforms have multiple ad formats and ways that you can show up on them. All of those formats have their own creative best practices. And so the things that marketers are expected to know just grows exponentially, and it's really hard to keep track of. And so the first thing we do is we create a set of guardrails, and we give our clients some peace of mind that no matter the platform that you're working on, there are 5 core principles that are going to help you make better creative. And we go through all of those. To give you a teaser, one of them is capture attention fast. Whether you are on TikTok or YouTube or anywhere, you absolutely have to capture attention as fast as you possibly can, because all of these platforms are based on choice. And the idea that if somebody's not interested in what you're showing, they'll just keep scrolling or click on to the next thing. And there was actually a recent study in eMarketer that the latest data is that you have about 1.6 seconds on these platforms to make somebody care and to capture their attention. So it's lightning fast. So that's one of the principles we think about. And then once we have those 5 universal principles in place, we can start thinking really creatively about the constraints that the platforms themselves offer and create. So for example, a constraint that's really unique to YouTube is the skippable button. You have 5 seconds of a forced view of your ad, and then somebody can choose to skip if they're not interested in it. And so we like to really challenge our clients to think, how can that constraint of that skippable button actually enhance your storytelling rather than hinder it and feel like an obstacle? I could honestly go on and on about this one. I'll leave you with one more and then we'll keep going because this is my favorite question. But another one that I really love is around breaking patterns. So if you notice, there's a lot of industries that have really adopted specific patterns of storytelling. A great example is the fragrance industry. It feels like a lot of fragrance ads look the same. They tell the story in the same way. And our brains, when we see the same thing over and over again, we see a pattern, eventually we start to tune it out because we need room for other things in our brains and it's not giving us anything new that we need to pay attention to. And so we love to challenge our clients to identify all of the patterns that exist in their industry in terms of storytelling and figure out are there creative ways that they can break those. So for example, in the insurance industry, for a long time, the way that the story was told was from the perspective of the person that the incident was happening to. And it was often in kind of a sad, somber, serious tone. And then years ago, Allstate flipped that story on its head when it created this mayhem character. And they started telling the story from the perspective of the incident itself through his voice and doing it in a really humorous way. And as a result, it's one of the most memorable campaigns that marketers think of today. And it's gone on for so long and it's so well loved because it really broke a pattern in an industry and caught our attention in that way.
And just to share kind of a more current example, since Allstate, as Carly mentioned, has been around for a bit. If you haven't seen Hilton, they are definitely leaning into these ideas that we're talking about. So breaking of patterns, capturing our attention really fast. And they developed a made for TikTok creative that was kind of surprising. So first of all, it was 10 minutes long when the typical TikTok ad is definitely under about 15 seconds typically. They actually wrote the script and created the storyline based on the influencers that they partnered with, versus typically what brands do is have like a general script and say, Hilton's so great, I love it, right? We've all seen that kind of ad from an influencer many, many times before. So breaking a pattern in that regard as well. And they obviously really captured our attention fast because they had really unique talent. They had really quick cuts that kept us interested and kept us watching through that long 10-minute ad. Plus, they just relied on some good old-fashioned humor. But most importantly, we still learn a lot about Hilton and their value props. So I want to show you guys the first minute of this ad, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more.
Would you watch a 10-minute TikTok?
No.
Well, you should. Because Hilton believes it matters where you stay. And the people that stay with this TikTok for the full 10 minutes are going to have a chance to win Hilton Honors Points, experiences, swag, and more. Is it going to be you?
No.
Good. Don't. But I will. And I'll get those Hilton Honors Points. And I can say from personal experience that every stay with Hilton's family of brands is an absolute pleasure. Oh, sorry, are you filming something? Yeah. Is it an ad? No? Oh, no. No, don't do this. Why not? We don't want ads on TikTok. People hate them. No, people on TikTok hate corporations pretending to be people. They love good ads. And ads can be art, just like the plush beds and soft linen at Hilton can make sleeping into an art form. We can't do ads. It's not our thing.
Okay, so if you want to watch the full 10 minutes, which I imagine a lot of you do, you can find it on Hilton's TikTok page. And the reason I say I'm sure a lot of you do is because these stats are insane. So since launching in mid-February, they have over 35 million views, over 500,000 likes, and the comments are really positive and really just funny. It just shows that they really hit a nerve with their target customer. So definitely funny. They've followed up this campaign and they're doing more with influencers, and just suggest, there's a lot of brands out there doing really interesting work, breaking patterns, capturing our attention. Just spend some time, look at what other people are doing to gain inspiration, because you'll find things that capture your attention and things that don't. And it's a really good gut check before you put something out yourself.
I love this. I've seen this video so many times and I laugh at it all the time. Please watch the 10 minutes. It's hilarious. But it's such a good reminder of just breaking patterns. You don't have to do what you're always supposed to do. And I love that provocation. I love that you guys are bringing it to life, because sometimes it's hard when you actually are asking someone, like, just think out of the box and just do something different. What do you mean by that? So I love what you just mentioned. It's like, find the patterns, flip them on their head, and Carly, you mentioned something. It's like the actual constraints of these platforms are a creative opportunity. So thank you so much for reminding us about this. Folks that are watching us right now, they want to do this. They want to implement this. They want to make sure that they're taking something out of all this 30 minutes that we're spending and saying, okay, team, tomorrow we should be doing this. What would you say is the main takeaways? What do you think is the key things that they can do with their teams to make their creative experience better when it comes to marketing, especially when it comes to video?
Really, really good question. I would probably say the most important thing is really lead with insights. I think we have so many assumptions about our customer that many times we kind of rely on what we know or what we think. But there's so many different tools that can really help you truly understand your customer better, what their interests are, what their intents is. And so we typically look at a few different tools to help us gather those insights to inform different creative testing that we'll want to actually work with the brand on. So the first one that we now use, which I talked about earlier, helps streamline that data super easy, is our AI tools. So thinking about ChatGPT or Bard or Bing Chat, you gather a lot of information very, very quickly. So what do people like about your product? What don't they like? Why do they use it? It can even help you start to write some copy ideas. Granted, I will say they definitely need some tweaks, but it at least helps you get started. And it's a great way to kind of compile a lot of that data about your customer starting there. Then you have platform tools. So this includes things like Google Trends, YouTube Analytics, even TikTok search, if you've noticed. They've leaned in quite heavily into SEO lately. And what you'll be able to see is basically the top terms that people are searching for related to your product or your category. And you're many times going to see similarities across the platforms, but you actually might find something unique. And that is going to help you actually think about which type of creative or which type of message you should use on which platform. Then there's industry research. Obviously, we know there's a lot of people who are out in the world researching our different areas, our different customers. Just a good checkpoint to think about kind of your outside in market. And then finally, when it does come to your inside kind of first party data, we always suggest looking at things that you might not necessarily think about. So what kind of questions do your customer service representatives get most frequently? What terms are being searched on your website? Which emails or headlines are actually performing the best, have the highest open rates? all of this data combined is really the first point of understanding your customer better and understanding which messages and which creatives you'll want to test. And then Carly, you can talk a little bit about how we think about testing, because I think that's the second build on this.
Yeah, definitely. Whether brands like it or not, the second piece of advice is to never stop testing, build out testing budget, really invest in it. It is so critical to really understand what aspects of your creative are moving the needle. It could be the talent you're using, whether you're using somebody of a certain age or gender or look or the way that they talk. There's so many subtleties. It could be whether you're using emotion-based messaging or need-based messaging. There's just so many ways that you can sort of rig your creative to perform differently with just small changes. And so, as Shar mentioned, sometimes you'll go into a campaign with a specific assumption. And this part's really fun because the data is going to actually tell you what's resonating with people, and it's not always what you think it is. And the answer can also really vary by audience and by platform. We actually have a case study on our website with one of our clients, Zenny Optical, who we've done a ton of testing with. We've really focused on testing tone of voice and talent and messaging strategies. And the insights have been so interesting because we've just really found that there are nuances around the platforms and also the creative styles. And all of those things that we've learned through creative testing has ultimately impacted their broader go-to-market strategy and decisions that they're making about other parts of their business. So if you're not convinced to invest in creative testing, know that it doesn't and shouldn't live in a silo. It can actually impact broader parts of your business and really have a ripple effect. So in all, the key takeaway is there's so much data at your fingertips. You can't let it go to waste, and you really have to use it to guide your decision making. And that's what really successful brands are doing now and will continue to do.
Such a good point, just to bring it home, because creativity, it is an art and a science, and it is a lot of the times based on actual data. So leverage on that data. Think about your safe to fail experiments when we're thinking about creative. So with that in mind, ladies, I just want to thank you so much for bringing your expertise to the table for all of us to share it. I love just watching those good examples. Nothing brings creativity to life than good examples. So we really appreciate it. And I'm just going to give the audience a few takeaways so they can all feel free to share this with their audience, with their teams. So when we think about business creativity and how do we utilize this specifically for creative, really think about use it as a business advantage, and don't be constrained. Don't be constrained by the constraints of the platform. Think about them as opportunities to be creative. There are consistencies regardless of the platform. So how do you capture attention is going to be critical. And then finally, let data guide you. Don't stop testing. Think about your safe to fail experiments. Think about what can you do tomorrow that it is safe enough for you to try, but don't stop testing it. So for anything else, feel free to reach out to both of us, Canvas+Co and Just a Squiggle. Don't forget to follow us. Don't forget to visit us. But most importantly, I just want to thank everyone here for their time, for attention, to being such an awesome audience, for being such an amazing interviewers. If you guys have any questions, we would love to hear them from our folks in the chat, or from our folks when they see the recording. Just feel free to DM us. And it's been a pleasure to be here with you. Carly, Charlene, thank you so much for being here in the business of creativity, and have a fantastic, fantastic rest of the day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.